long before the rise of Homo sapiens, long before fire, tools, or even the idea of civilization. The plains and woodlands of East Africa were home to strange, early beings. Not quite ape, not yet fully human. One such creature, often forgotten, sometimes debated, but always intriguing, was Homo Rudolfensis, a species that walked upright, bore the early signs of intelligence, and yet retained traits from ancestors long gone. In today's journey through deep time, we'll step into a world nearly 2 million years old to discover how this early hominin lived, what it may have looked like, and how it may hold forgotten clues to the very origin of our genus. Before we dive in, make sure you subscribe to Prehistoric Medievals so you don't miss any of our deep time explorations into the forgotten past. Homo Rudolfensis emerged in what is now East Africa, roughly between 2.4 and 1.6 million years ago. While not as well known as its cousin Homo habilis, Rudolfensis is just as important and, in many ways, even more mysterious. Its fossils are rare, scattered, and hard to categorize, which has made it a bit of a puzzle piece on our family tree. But the first significant clue came in 1972, when a nearly complete skull was discovered near Lake Turkana in northern Kenya, a region once lush with greenery, forests, and water. Back then, the lake was known as Lake Rudolfens, the name Rudolfensis. This skull, catalogued as KNMER 1470, was unlike any other known at the time. It had a large brain case, a broad, flat face, and larger teeth than expected. The man who brought this species to light was Kenyan paleoanthropologist Richard Leakey, whose family had already played a major role in shaping our understanding of human evolution. Make sure to hit that subscribe button if you're enjoying the story so far. There's much more to uncover. Now, despite the excitement around the discovery, scientists couldn't quite agree on what to do with it. Was this an early Homo or something else entirely? Some argued it was too primitive, others thought it was too advanced, and some even suggested that Rudolfensis wasn't a separate species at all, but simply a variation of Homo habilis. The debate still simmers today. What we do know is that Rudolfensis coexisted with multiple other hominins, including habilis and Paranthropus boisei, across the same regions at the same time. This overlap complicates everything. When bones are found, it's difficult to assign them definitively to one species. Many fossils once thought to be habilis have since been re-evaluated. A few may actually belong to Rudolfensis, others are still undecided. But that doesn't mean we know nothing. Far from it. Stick with us, subscribe to Prehistoric Medievals if you haven't already, as we dive deeper into the life of this early human. Based on the skull, researchers estimate that male Homo Rudolfensis individuals may have stood just over 5 feet tall, while females were slightly shorter. Males probably weighed around 60 kilograms, with females around 50. Their faces, when reconstructed, appear strangely human, broad and flat, with a wide mouth, a low forehead, and a pronounced brow ridge. Yet there's an ape-like quality in their proportions. Their arms, for instance, were relatively long, likely a leftover adaptation from tree-dwelling ancestors. Their bodies were almost certainly covered in hair, suggesting that these early humans hadn't yet adapted to the intense heat in the way later species like Homo erectus would. But one feature in particular stands out: their teeth. Rudolfensis had massive molars with enamel so thick it rivaled anything seen in their epoch. Contemporaries. This suggests they were well equipped to chew tough, fibrous plant material, roots, tubers, maybe even hard seeds. It's possible they also ate meat, scavenging carcasses, or taking down small prey in groups. But so far, no solid evidence links Rudolfensis to any kind of stone tool use. That sets them apart from later Homo species who were already experimenting with choppers and flakes. And yet, Rudolfensis survived. It adapted. It thrived, at least for a while. If you're fascinated by the strange lives of our ancient ancestors, don't forget to subscribe to Prehistoric Medievals. It helps us bring more of these lost stories back to life. In the next part, we'll explore how Homo Rudolfensis may have lived day to day, how it moved, socialized, and survived in a land filled with predators, danger, and competing species. We'll also look at how this forgotten hominin fits into the bigger picture of human evolution. But before we go any further, let's pause and reflect. If you were alive 2 million years ago and you crossed paths with this creature, would you recognize it as one of us? Or would it feel like something other? It's hard to say exactly what it would have felt like to stand face to face with Homo Rudolfensis, but the clues we do have suggest something uncannily familiar and yet unmistakably primal. These early humans weren't just surviving, they were navigating a world that was hostile, complex, and constantly shifting. And though they lacked the tools and technologies that later species developed, they had something else: adaptability, social bonds, and perhaps the very beginnings of the intelligence that would one day define us. If you haven't already, take a moment now to subscribe to Prehistoric Medievals. You won't want to miss what comes next. Daily life for Homo Rudolfensis would have been a constant balancing act between opportunity and danger. Food was everywhere, but so were the things that wanted to kill you. From the shores of Lake Turkana, with its crocodile-infested waters, to the dry grasslands teeming with predators, survival meant staying alert, moving often, and relying on the troop. Much like modern chimpanzees or gorillas, Rudolfensis likely lived in social groups, perhaps led by a dominant male or a coalition of elders. These groups would have groomed each other, shared food, and banded together to scare off intruders. They may have had rudimentary vocalizations, grunts, barks, Christo, communicate danger, or call out to each other. Their brains were larger than those of their ape ancestors, hinting at the early roots of cooperation and problem-solving. Despite lacking true tools, they were resourceful. Their thick jaws and durable teeth meant they could access food. Others couldn't. Third nuts, roots buried deep in the ground, fibrous leaves. They may have also scavenged meat from kills made by larger predators. Without the endurance running abilities of later species like Homo erectus, Rudolfensis probably relied more on ambush and opportunism than on long chases. They couldn't outrun danger, but they could outthink it just enough. Subscribe to Prehistoric Medievals for more stories of early intelligence emerging in the ancient world. Predators, however, were always lurking. Large cats like Dinophelis and Meganterium, both ancient saber-toothed hunters, shared the same environment. These weren't cats you could escape by simply running. They were ambush predators, fast and silent in the tall grass, capable of dragging down prey many times their size. Fossil sites often reveal the grim, truthfully human bones bearing the marks of sharp feline teeth. Homo Rudolfensis likely spent much of its time near trees and may have slept off the ground, finding safety in the branches. Much like their more ape-like relatives, their long arms weren't just for climbing. They were a lifeline. And it wasn't just the cats. Nile crocodiles lurked near every water source, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. One careless drink from the lake could be fatal. Snakes, too, were a hidden, danger, venomous, and nearly invisible in the undergrowth. Even the skies weren't always safe. There is some fossil evidence suggesting that young hominins may have been snatched up by birds of prey, such as crowned eagles. No place was entirely secure, and that constant pressure may have shaped Rudolfensis in ways we don't fully understand. Survival wasn't just physical, it required awareness, memory, and learning. Homo Rudolfensis also shared its world with other hominins, most notably Homo habilis and Paranthropus boisei. These species, though similar, were direct competitors for food, territory, and safety. Habilis is often considered a closer relative to us, and some believe it may even be the direct ancestor of modern humans. But Rudolfensis was clearly different, larger, with a flatter face and more powerful jaws. They weren't part of the lineage, necessarily, but they weren't strangers either. In regions where their ranges overlapped, competition may have turned aggressive. Displays of dominance, perhaps even physical confrontations, could have occurred. These weren't peaceful times. The fight for survival often meant fighting each other. Meanwhile, Paranthropus boisei, sometimes called the Nutcracker Man, was an entirely different branch of the evolutionary tree. It had a massive jaw, a prominent sagittal crest, and a diet focused almost exclusively on plants. Though not a member of the Homo genus, it shared space and time with Rudolfensis and may have even developed the first simple tools made from bone. Watching these distinct species move through the same landscape is like glimpsing a crossroads in evolution. Different strategies, different bodies, different paths. If you're finding this as fascinating as we are, now's the perfect time to subscribe to Prehistoric Medievals, because these ancient connections might just rewrite what we think we know about our own origins. And that's where Homo Rudolfensis becomes so vital. It may not have led directly to us, or maybe, just maybe, it did. A jawbone labelled LD 351, found in Ethiopia and dated to around 2.8 million years ago, could represent the earliest known member of our genus. Some scientists believe it belongs to Rudolfensis. Others suggest it could be habilis, or perhaps an ancestor of both. We simply don't know. The fossil record is incomplete. The lines between species are blurry. But what's clear is this Rudolfensis was there, at the dawn of Homo. It saw the world before us. It shaped the stage we would one day inherit. So the next time you picture early humans, don't stop at fire and tools. Go back further. To the wide-eyed, fur-covered beings that gazed out over ancient lakes, cautious of crocodiles, whispering to each other under moonlight and climbing trees for safety. Beings like us, but not us. And yet, in many ways, the beginning of everything. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to Prehistoric Medievals for more stories from the Prehistoric Medievals. Shadows of prehistory. There's still so much to uncover. And maybe, just maybe, the key to understanding who we are lies not in the future, but in our most distant past.